Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our live session today. My name is Larissa. I'm an event planner at Reactor, joining you from Brazil. Before we start, I have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. The session is being recorded and will be available to view on demand here on the Reactor YouTube channel within 48 hours. Keep an eye on the chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for your questions. I will now turn it over to our speakers for today. Thank you all and welcome.
Hello and welcome to this Fabric Analytics Engineering Essentials preparation for the DP-600 certification. Thank you all for joining us, and I think we are just going to dive right into it. So we're going to start with introduction. Raj, you want to start?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are located. And thanks for joining here. Today's program, and in this myself, I'm Rajendra Ongol. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP, and if you want to reach out to me, you can connect me via this LinkedIn handle. So I'm happy to support anything. Thank you.
And I'm Auski Gunnarsson. I'm also a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. I come from Denmark, come from Iceland, live in Denmark. I'm a partner and an architect in a small consultancy called Data Lab. You have my information on there. If you want to get in touch, I'm always happy to connect with data people around the world. Yes, next please.
Great.
So this session is a part of 60 days of data, and it's not just a couple of sessions going on. We have a whole host of things happening. It's more than a learning event. It's a shared experience where you and loads of people around the world are going to help each other and be around each other to experience Fabric and data. So you can expect live sessions like this one here today, certification opportunities, study groups, contests, and hands-on challenges, and hopefully meeting loads of people from around the world which share your passion for data. But there are a few of the things we're going to dive a little bit further into, just so you can better understand what you can expect. So if you go to the next slide, Raj.
Yeah.
So one of the things you can do during these 60 days of data is getting. Oh, sorry, we did one too far right. I think the next one is supposed to be this certification.
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing you can do is that you can get certified for free if you want to get certified. For example, in DP-600 that we are going to be presenting on today, you can. What you need to do is follow the link that is on your screen now. There are a few requirements that you need to fulfill to be able to get a voucher for a free certification. You need to join the Fabric community if you haven't done so. There are lots of other good reasons to do that, but this is one of the reasons you want to do that. You need to watch at least two of the day-to-day sessions. This counts as one, but there are also lots of others. We will cover a little bit later on which one they are in the near future. You don't have to watch them live. You can watch them on demand as well, but you need to at least have two before you can get a voucher. Another thing you need to do is you need to complete at least 3 Microsoft Learn modules from our collection, which is relevant to these certifications. Of course, agree terms and conditions, and then you need to apply latest August 10th. But there's a caveat there because it's first come, first serve, and there's a limited availability. So I highly recommend that you fulfill the requirements, watch the sessions, do the learning modules, and apply for the voucher soon. You will do that within there's a form in the community, and when you do that, you just wait, hold on a bit, and you will get an answer in a private message in the community, with your voucher when time comes. It won't come straight away. It will come at some point in the future. When you have it, then you need to apply for an exam, and you need to do the exam within a certain time. But it's follow the link, read all the rules, and make sure that you take the opportunity and get the free exam. They're typically $100, so that's actually quite a bit of saving. Next, please. One other things you can do is to join a study group. It is like it's more, you get more chance of passing the exam if you join a study group, because learning on it by yourself is always more difficult than learning with others. It's also about linking with like-minded people and doing that shared experience, which will reinforce learning a little bit more. One thing to notice, if you follow this link on the screen here, you will go to a page will list all the different study groups. If you scroll a little bit down, you will find the ones for DP-600. Most of them are on August 1st or later. But don't worry, because if you get your certification, the voucher, you don't have to take the exam until after 2 months. So you can still join the study groups before you actually have to take the exam. So join a study group and take advantage of the knowledge that people are sharing. The next one, please. And this one is close to my heart. Finding your community. If you haven't joined the Fabric community, you should do so. Of course, one of the things is to be able to get a voucher for a free exam. But there's also loads of communities out there that you can find information about. So it's not just the page that you can sign into. There's going to be links to loads of different communities around the world. Some of them are local in-person groups. Some of them are local online groups. Some of them are global online groups. They're going to be multiple languages as well. So you can find a group that fits your needs. These groups, this community has meant a lot. It's been a major factor in my life, both professionally and personally. Some of my best friends are actually from the data community, and my career would not be anywhere like it if not for the data community. How about you, Raj? Is that similar there?
Yes, similar kind of. I was also joined in multiple groups where I will acquire the knowledge and I will get to know what are the updates. So it's better, please join and connect to the local communities, and even the local languages also. They're providing what needs to be done and how we are going to process and so on. It's great to join and local communities part.
Yeah, definitely. And just find one that fits your needs and go for it. In my opinion, the in-person is where you learn most, but it's not. Everyone doesn't have a local in-person community, so use the online. And the great thing about the online communities is that you can join the Danish Power BI community or Danish Fabric community online group, but that's in English, and it's gonna it doesn't matter if you're in China or in in Sweden. It doesn't matter. It's just the internet is everywhere.
Yeah.
And one other thing I just want to mention about the community is that if you sign into the page that you need to get the certification exam, there's also a forum there. You can ask your questions. And the great thing about this forum is that some of the greatest, best experts in Fabric in the world are waiting for you to ask your good questions and giving you an answer. So good questions, good answers. That's always the rule I tell people. So, next, please. Another thing you can expect with the 60 days of Fabric is the hands-on challenges and contests. There's going to be different challenges and contests around the whole period of time. One of the bigger one, and that's already started, this is Database World Championship. I'm going to come to that in a little bit. But there's also going to be challenges around Fabric apps, which is a new thing, SQL AI prompting, Fabric ontologies, and AI skills in Fabric. So keep going back to this page, and you see more and more of these challenges appearing over the time, and they are so much fun to participate in. Even though you're not there, some of you will be there to win, but some of you will there just to participate and get better, because doing challenges will also improve your skills.
Exactly, I agree with you. Like a lot of challenges are going on, so Power BI data vault challenge is also there. Like last 2 days back, 16th, it has been get started. So please join there on the contesting part and try your own, like with the own data sets, whatever the data sets that has been provided there. Better.
Yeah. You do the next one.
Yeah.
So one of the big ones, and that's something I want to put your attention on, is the Power BI Database World Championship. It's a really interesting contest where you can go on and you can participate in it. So it started 2 days ago, but the first round is not done yet. I think it's until 25th of June or something like that. You get a data set, you create a data visualization, you can model the data a bit, you cannot change the data, you can model it a bit, you can do your visualization, you submit it. If you win, you will go to the final in September. If you don't win, you can participate in round 2 or round 3, and you don't have to participate in all rounds, but you have 3 chances of winning. And the 3 winners and a wildcard, I think. They are going to be, competing live on 29th of September in Barcelona on stage, which is, I was there last year when they did the same thing in Vienna, and it was an amazing thing to see. So go ahead and take part in this, and hopefully, either to win or just to challenge yourself. And then, you can, as a bonus, you can come maybe win and come to Barcelona. And just as one of the last year finalists, they almost didn't enter it, but they decided to do it anyway, and they went all the way to the final. And it was an amazing thing to see. So don't hesitate. Go ahead and do it.
Exactly. Moving on to the next slide.
Yes, please. Thank you. So one of the other things you can do is that you can influence the product roadmaps. So we have here the links to 3 different user panels that you can participate in. And this is where you can actually directly talk to a program manager or Microsoft Research to influence either an existing feature of the product or even features that are being developed at the time. So you sign up, and then you will get an email saying that we have this study going on. You can apply for it, and if you're the right profile, they might invite you to an interview. And then you need to commit a bit of time, but then you can talk to them directly and tell them your unfiltered opinion about the product. So if you are into Fabric, or if you're into Fabric IQ, or if you're into SQL, one of these communities or all of them, go ahead and then join them. And this is your way to influence it. So we all know ideas.fabric.microsoft.com. But this is a chance to actually come and talk to them if you have, opinions of how Fabric should be.
Yeah, it's a great way to get connect with the teams. Yeah.
Next, please. And last, before we start getting a little bit closer to the data itself, the content itself, is that these are the next couple of weeks of content. In the last couple of days, we've had some sessions on DP-700 and also one on DP-600. Next week, we will be more on PL-300. Tomorrow is the one on Spark. So find this. There's AK link at the bottom to the whole schedule. This is just a small part of it, and you can find all these different sessions. You can attend them either live or you can find them on demand afterwards. And one thing I want to say is that if you're going to take the exam, the session on June 25th is really, really good. If you have never taken one of these online exams before, this one will help you to organize yourself on the day itself. So it's nothing to do with the content, but more with giving yourself the best chance of passing, by being well organized and understanding the physical aspects of taking the exam itself. Yes, next please. Now, we are going to be present. Me and Raj are going to present the actual content, but we have great moderators that are going to be in the chat, and they are going to be answering all your questions. First moderator we have today is Heini. She is a data platform and HR MVP from Finland, vastly experienced, and has experience in many different aspects of Fabric and data platform in general. And then also, besides Heini, we have Jeff. He's from the US, a senior data support engineer. He's very active in the data community, in the Fabric community, and has been really specializing himself in these certifications. So if you have any kind of questions about the actual certification, you should ask him. And he knows the content well, but he actually knows the process really well as well. So if you have a question, type it into the chat. And they are going to be, there to answer your questions all through the session, both on the content, on the certification, and on the exam itself. Right, next please.
Yeah.
And 3 more slides before we, or 4 more slides, sorry, before we come to the actual content. We just want to have a little bit disclaimer. What are we going to talk about today? We cannot talk about everything. We cannot make sure that you know everything about the DP-600 because we have less than an hour to do it. But we're going to cover the key topics. And we're going to try to point out to things that we think are important for the exam. So if you go one ahead, Raj. So what do we have? We have these 3 different sections, which are the main sections of the exam itself. So preparing data, the modeling of data, and then maintaining and governing your solutions. So we go one ahead again.
Yeah.
And so this is a little bit of description. So I'm not going to read this for you, but this is a lot of text. But what I want you to do is that, if you follow the link here, you can read all different description of what you need to know and need to learn. And this is really important before you dive into the exam to understand where your strengths and weaknesses are. So make sure you understand exactly if this is the right exam for you. This is focused on the analytical engineer. So it's, you need to know things about, the extraction of data, transformation of data, modeling of data, and all these different back-end things. This is not about the reporting itself, but it's more about the back-ends of data modeling. And of course, some of the governance as well. So if you go ahead.
I'll just try to add a few points.
Each of these three sections
Yeah, I'll just add a few points here. So this is not a fundamental kind of a thing. So after a lot of questions also I'm finding, getting Asgar, after PL300, what needs to be do, like a DP-600 or else a 700. So try to take it as a DP-600 as the next of your career path. And again, telling you that the level of certification is not a fundamental. It is again subject matter expert level, where you are going to manage, design, create everything, like whatever the activities as an analyst, we have to perform accordingly as per the analytical assets which you are going to work on it. So like the path should be something like 300. After that, you have to go with the 600 and then take it forward to the next level, like 700 and so on, 800 also. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so these three sections that we are going to talk about today, they also have subsection, and they are not, weighted the same. So if you have, we have the maintain and governance and the semantic models, they weigh 25 to 30% each. And then we have the data preparation, which is 45 to 50%. And that covers also the most of the tooling. So there's going to be more and more tools within that section there. So that's probably why it weighs more. But if you take the practice exam, they will also be weighed in the same way, so you can figure out a little bit where your strengths and weaknesses are. And I say we're gonna touch on these things here. We're not gonna cover it in depth. So go and use the study guide and let that help you with the exam when you get so far. Yeah,
exactly.
Let's go.
Fine.
And last slide before the content. Go for it.
Yes. Yeah. I will get started with this. So as we already aware of this particular slide, you have seen a lot of places where you're presenting on the live sessions, right? This is where we are going to start with the Microsoft Fabric. So it's a kind of a single interface where you are going to do the lot of other workloads. If you're observing the data factories or analytics pipeline or databases, even the real-time intelligence, everything will be coming to one single place, a kind of an umbrella where we are going to do all kind of an activities for your work needs, like a data activities part. For that, if you are, as I said, right, Asgar already mentioned, we are not going to cover each and every module in detail. Where we are going to get focused, that is very, very important. So preparation of the data plays a major role here, where you are going to get the 45 to 50% of the weightage questions there, and going forward, like another semantic model part, 25 to 30%, and so on. So let's try to focus on module by module, or else workload by workload, like a data factory part, how we are going to get it analyzed, or what kind of an activity we are going to perform in the building the pipelines and so on. So choosing the preparation also very, very important if you are pulling the information to the different various databases level. So make sure that which level of workload you are using and what are the functionalities that we are going to make use of it. These are all plays a major role. So on the right hand side, if you're observing, it's a single platform where we are going to see different workloads inside of it. So we need to get it signed in and complete the new items part. You can find out where we are going to get it, fetch the data, or perform the advanced analytical models like a data science related projects, or maybe if you want to build the Azure SQL databases, SQL databases inside of it. For that, everything get it needed within workspace organization. So how it has been get it organized. So these are all the plays a major role on this architectural level. So if you're observing on the right hand side, the data lakes which has been get it. So the data will be, we know, whoever familiar from coming from the background of the Power BI, we know like import method and direct query method. So here we will try to see something like a direct lake method as well, where we are trying to see the real numbers or as a quicker updates inside of it whenever you are trying to see the different or various insights via Power BI application. So it has been get supported with lot of security models at each and every level. And even if you're observing at each and every workload, you can find out the Copilot, which your AI intelligence is there. So you can take the suggestions or queries accordingly. We can try to accommodate the query errors, I mean like SQL errors and so on, we can try to get it configured there as well. And which has been integrated with the CI/CD pipeline. Most of us works with the SDLC lives, like development environment, testing, production related, or maybe if in between UAT related activities too, which will be get it inbuilt when you are working with the deployment pipelines as well. So this is the complete layer where we will perform the data catalogs by using the governance applications as well. So which will be beneficial. So try to focus extractions part, or which type of a layer you are using and what kind of a method or techniques that we are going to apply at each and every layer. So the data storage part, anyway, we are going to get it discussed on the further slides. So this is how the look and feel on this Microsoft Fabric architecture. So Asghar, do you have any thoughts to add here?
No, just maybe just to say that the one link is a key here, but it's not for the certification exam. It's not that it's a little bit on the governance part, but one link fuels everything here, and so it's really good. If you're gonna do this in real life, they'll get to know one link really well. But for a certification exam, it's not gonna be a huge problem.
Exactly. Yeah. This is where we will do that. We're preparing data in Microsoft Fabric, getting the data, transformation, and query and analyzing data. There are multiple ways, different processes as per the teams, as per the build that has been done. We have multiple ways. So if you're observing on the right-hand side, Dataflow Gen2 wise, we can get it extract, which will be get it support various data source systems, like it's a cloud or on-premises or external source systems too. And maybe whatever, that is my key zone here, where most of the time, because I'm coming from a background of Power BI, I will choose to the preference of the Dataflow Gen2, where it's almost similar like the Power Query editor. So after that, maybe if you want to get it inject the data, it is also get supported with the pipeline building, which is almost as same as an Azure Data Factories. We can perform the activities that we will call the Dataflow Gen2 there, and we can also automate your data flows and so on. We can proceed further as well. So it will be get supported each and every layer for an ingestion part if you're working with the larger data sets and processing the information via different, multiple approaches via parameters and variable concepts. It's better to choose pipeline building and so on. Notebooks also one of the key area. Maybe if you want to perform some advanced statistical analysis, like building some pipe models on the top of it, machine learning models, which has been incorporated with ML machine learning apps as well, and which has been supported with multiple. You can also get to know like different languages in the notebooks part in the form of a cell wise. We can get it configure and execute where code and code cells and proceed further. How this analysis has been get it further processed and then visualize it by using the commands, packages like Cburn or Matplotlib and so on. Suppose example, if you want to get connect, as I said, right? So shortcut external source systems like Amazon Web Services, so which we got it some kind of a requirements part, or maybe if you want to pull it over from Google Cloud Computing, instead of replicating the same data into your one lake, we can directly pull over via, there is a shortcut application, shortcut wise, we can try to get it extract, and we can file this and store that information, within this lake houses. So it's a complete processing. If you're observing automation level, we can perform this data factory pipeline buildings, and one particular process where we can try to implement or reuse the similar way of activities and processing part at a different or various workloads, which has been displayed on your right hand side.
Yeah. Can I just add one thing for the last slide? Just
yes, please. Let me
because I'm I come from a data engineering background, so I'm a huge notebook fan. So I go there. But I think for the exam, if you're thinking about the exam for people, is like they should listen for the how the words are set. If the wording is like a self-service, something like that, then Dataflow Gen2 is probably the solution. If the not moving data, not copying data, then shortcuts is probably the answer. If it's like a code, then notebooks are a problem. And it'd be really interesting to hear if the people in the who are listening or looking, if what they prefer. Do they prefer Gen2, Dataflow Gen2, notebooks, pipelines, or shortcuts? Put it into the chat and tell us what you feel like are the you prefer.
Yes, which one you feel comfortable, that plays very major. Like which one you prefer, like a Dataflow Gen 2 or pipeline. Maybe if you're already working on this Microsoft Fabric topics, so better you can post it in the chat so that we will also get to know how it is and how it is going on.
Mhm.
Shall I move on to the next?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So next, as I said, transformations and exploring the data part. So these are all the workloads part on the left hand side. Dataflow Gen2, we will perform the data shaping, like if you are pulling over the information from sources and how it is going to be like unstructured or semi-structured. We will perform a lot of shaping activities, data shaping to maintain the data in a well-organized shape. And we will use internally the different ways of transformations by using the Dataflow Gen2s. And we will perform some internal joins as well as aggregating the data before proceeding the model, which is the best way to instead of doing this activity at the lower level, it is better to perform these shaping or cleaning up activities at the upstream part so that it is well versed. So we can just get the minimizal efforts on the data flow gen tools and proceed further as per the workload. And along with that, if you're observing data flow gen 2, which will be get supported with a lot of various transformations, as we already aware on the Power Query Editor part, how it will be get supported on for cleansing operations, M language. So the similar kind of an operations, and along with that, a prompt is also get added on this when you are working on the data flow gen 2. Maybe how many of you already worked on this a prompt instead of using the custom column way or defining the new columns? Let me know in the chat box. So a prompt is also one more new functionality which has been get added on the data flow gen 2. And Spark wise, if you are working with the larger data sets or larger models in such kind of a scenario to see advanced statistical analysis, it's better to preferably we can go with the cell code wise by using the Spark notebooks as per the language preferences. It's supporting various languages, as I said, PySpark, Java, or directly the Python code, SQL languages. We can try to check and configure as per the team, which is have the competency and get it start with this notebook building and proceed further by using this complex data set part, which is huge and complex related transformations there. And transformations which are reusable across the various teams part, we can get it fetch or else link directly from the one lake. So multiple teams also we can make use of it for other developments and so on. So better make use of the existing instead of duplicating the things and configuring the similar process from the scratch accordingly. So Asgar, your views on this transformations part?
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Try to do things as soon as possible. So I don't know if you know Roach's maxim from Matthew Roach is like do your transformation as upstream as possible and as downstream as necessary. I really agree with that, and I think just try to do things once and then reuse it more often.
Multiple, yes, agree. This is how it looks like. Maybe if you're already familiar, so as I asked you in the chat as well, in the YouTube chat, please post it. So this is the layer which you are going to work when you get start with the Dataflow Gen2, which is completely a low code platform. You can perform all of the most of the ETL activities there, but make sure that which we are going to do the scaling part as well as the reusing activities. Most of the transformations try to avoid it inside doing in this Dataflow Gen2. Try to do it at the backend itself and coordinate with the data engineering team as well, and how we are trying to build it all over to load it into the Dataflow Gen2s and perform further activities for the upstreams and further visualizations accordingly. As I said, it is supporting more than 100 plus source systems, tons of sources as per the business requirement. We can get start and import it. Either you can choose, as I mentioned, right, the different workloads. You can choose the Dataflow Gen2 or pipelines, Azure Data Factories, or notebooks, and so on. And choosing the destination plays a major role. Suppose it is supporting as of now lake houses, or maybe if you want to get it configured with the existing data warehouse, we can configure the data destination should be arrive that particular tables or information to be get it arrive in the data warehouse or Azure SQL database. Even the real-time interface also will be get it work like event houses part as well by using KQL database. So make sure that where we are trying to get it stored after processing the information, the semantic model, right, before processing the data, the destination place is very, very important, where it is a data warehouse or lake houses or existing database like Azure SQL database or event houses which is supporting for the real time streaming processing part. So each and every level it works Dataflow Spark independently. And further, if you want to get it configured or else automate, we are using the pipelines as well. That particular data flow activity, we can get it configured and proceed further for the automation, like a scheduling of a data as per the frequency, the data arrival part, the frequency, we can try to schedule it by using this pipeline building. So it's a very nice slide. If you're observing the similar way of on the left hand side, the tables, the queries, we are going to call it, and the visual script or visual analysis, which you are observing at the top by extracting the different ways and performing the multiple transformations on the right hand side, and the query settings part. Make sure that that should be revert back, or else the transformations which you are going to perform, right, it should be revert back and execute the folding as well. If it is supporting the query folding, obviously your model is good and performance is better compared to the, I mean, adding some new columns inside of this Dataflow Gen2. That is what I felt like whenever if I'm performing some data transformations, I will make sure that instead of adding some new columns other than the sorting, grouping, aggregating, I will try to cross check whether the query folding is existing on this current steps, applied steps or not. That plays a major role for the performance aspects as well. So I mean, before moving on to the next slide, Asghar, you have any thoughts here?
Yeah, I just have a question for the audience. So I would be interested to know how many of you are aware of query folding and understand what it is. Put it into the chat. And there's don't worry about saying I'm not aware of it, because there's so many people that are not aware of it. But it's really important. And if you're not, look it up and figure out what that is all about. But it will be interesting to see how many people are aware of query folding and what it does.
Exactly. Moving on to the next slide. So this is how the pipeline orchestration, maybe if you want to get it processed or else inject the data with the various transformation, maybe if you are working on the larger automations part, in such kind of a scenario, you can get it used by building this Azure ADF, Azure Data Factory pipelines as well, where we can try to get it injected multiple ways and perform the various transformations by configuring the variables and source to the destination configurations, how the output looks like. And make sure that this particular activity is getting familiar when you're working as a hands-on, right? There are multiple labs also which is supported on MS Portal. So go through that labs and get some trial versions, Microsoft Fabric trial, and a lot of lab options are there to get it start, how to get it build these pipelines, and how we are trying to configure from one layer to the copy data activities, from storage to the destinations, where we are going to get it store the data, like integration with the lake houses or warehouse, as I mentioned, SQL database, SQL source part, we can get it store the information, or even the event house also, which will be get it supported. Make sure that whenever if you're working on that pipelines part, it should be reusable across various other layers. So you can also make use of this pipeline building directly to the reports, or even we can try to build it over to the dashboards as well. And suppose if you are getting some kind of an errors or notifications, there is a monitor. So you can also cross-verify the refresh run history, which will be very helpful to navigate and cross-check where it has been went wrong, or how many times the pipeline has been get it executed in a scale. So these kind of an operations will be get it very helpful to find out. It's a kind of a time travel, like how many times has been executed, and we can find when the success rate and when the failed rate. These are all information we can easily identify and track this pipeline information for the performance prospect as well. Yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, this just wanna for the purpose of the exam and people that are gonna take that and the certification preparation, is that pipelines are an orchestrator. They don't really do any kind of a transformation. They just orchestrate all. They can copy paste data, but then they will use other, like notebooks or Dataflow Gen2 or stored procedures or something else to actually do the work. But they will make sure that things are linked in a way so they can say that they do this. If this fails, you do that. If that succeeds, you go on and do this. And have a whole you can have a whole chain of parent pipeline and grandparent pipeline and all the things. So just keep that in mind, that this is orchestration. and not transformation. And that's where
Transformation.
it will use other tools for that particular one.
Yep, exactly. So if you're observing, these are the activities. So limited transformations, like they mentioned as the data transformations, we will perform some inbuilt pipeline building, and we can configure this method, notebooks or existing lake houses and so on. So which has been supported with the pipeline runs, as I just now I mentioned, like what are the active pipelines that has been executed, and we can configure by using this input and settings parameter configurations too. It's a very interesting page if you're observing data transformations and exploration with the notebook. So the teams, right? If we have any familiarity on this tools like a Python or R language, SQL, or if you're working with the larger data models, in such kind of a scenario, you can also choose the language, which language we can preferably, like a PySpark. By default, it is coming as a Python. We can configure it as a PySpark or R language, Java, SQL, and so on. So to perform these transformations, so suppose example, if it is getting configured with the PySpark, and if you want to write the code with some kind of a wild letters or keywords like a percentage is SQL, which we'll call it as a wild parameters. So automatically the code will be get changed from one language to the another language as well. So make sure that what type of a transformations you are proposing and make using on the larger data models for building the calculations. And as I said, right, at each and every workloads, even for this notebook preparations too, that has been configured with the Copilot configurations. Wherever if you want to have some queries or issues, it will try to trigger it and start exploration, advanced testing, or advanced statistical analysis on the top of it. Again, so where we are going to get it stored, or else we can get it configure that particular lakehouse information. We can directly integrate on the existing lakehouses, or else maybe if we want to get it configure to the other layers as well. So either it's a lake houses or warehouses and so on. So make sure that if you are working in the larger enterprise level architecture part, complementing with the data flows where we are trying to perform the most of the engineering activities, make sure that you are going to explore this and make use of this notebook preparation and do a lot of which has been supported with the different languages and perform these activities. Like as I mentioned, right, most of the packages has been get installed. Still, if you want to play or else add some new packages, we have a functionality to get it add and pull that pooling as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Any
yeah. So this is my home turf. So I love notebooks, but for the analytical engineer, that's which is the aim of this one. This is code first. So you need to write the code. There's nothing given. There's no things to place on the canvas. It's just, you need to write the code. So, but it's really, really powerful. And I think for the analytical engineer, where this one really plays a role is that if you need a very dynamic code, so if you need to say that I have some metadata and I need to run things differently, I need to have one piece of code that does different things depending on something. Then the Spark or notebooks are really, really, really powerful there because of the Python language is great for that. Another thing that you can do with this as an analytical engineer is that if you need to connect to any kind of APIs or things like that, there's loads of built-in things. Dataflow Gen2, while they can do it, it can be very complex if you have a complex authentication for an API to do that with the Dataflow Gen2. Notebooks, it's fairly simple to do, but you need to write the code. But there's lots of information online, lots of packages that make it easier. So this is where it will be really strong if you are an analytical engineer, to the APIs, and if you need to have very dynamic, because it can do whatever you want it to do. If you're good enough at coding, you can make it do whatever you want.
Yes, I'll just try to add one more point here. So when you get started with this notebooks, right, you can also find this data profiling things by using this data wrangling functionality. Once you can click on that, so if there is any kind of blank information or empty related data or error information, we can easily track it out by using this data wrangling, which you are observing on the right hand side, data wrangling functionality. And one more, as I recently started, one of the team member asked me, is that supporting with the multiple users? Yes, it is supporting with the concurrent user sessions too. Maybe if you want to get started with this particular notebook and parallelly one more user will be get start, means we have to get it configure the concurrent configuration sessions part as well. So automatically both of you can share your work and we can get start these notebooks as well. So there is no complications like one user at a time. Is not like that. We can get start with the multiple user configurations as well. Yeah. Moving on to the next. Query and analyzing the data which you are observing here. So make sure that the data will be get it explored, and these are the different languages: KQL language, SQL, DAX, or notebooks. So how many of you already, I'm just asking a question with curious, how many of you get start with KQL language, crystal query language, maybe in the real-time analytics part? So please post it. We will get definitely a kind of, maybe if you're working with the real-time data part, you definitely have to make use of the KQL stuff as well. And even the SQL database, SQL language, which will get supported, and you can get it configured with the SQL endpoint analytics. And even for the testing and validation part, make sure that you have to do the thorough testing and perform the further ad hoc analysis by using the exploring the data and prepare for the downstream supporting if you are working on the larger data models and enterprise level analytics. So you can fire this query in this way, like on the left hand side if you're observing, and check the data how it looks like. And if you're observing the result next, we can also start explore the data how it looks like, and we prepare a quick ad hoc analysis or report building by using these configurations, which you're observing kind of a small spets kind of an icon. So which like quickly you can build and try to cross verify the reports and share this analysis with the global audience accordingly. Your thoughts, any thoughts, Asghar, from this slide?
Let's now just move on. I think you did it well.
Yeah. Yeah. Next topic. So as I said, right, we discussed about the preparation of the data. There, as I said, multiple ways we can do that as per the team's guidance. Like maybe if you're coming from background of the Power BI, you can choose the Dataflow Gen2s, or pipeline building also will work. But most of the time, automation part, we are going to use it. And notebooks for bigger data analytics part, and even the shortcut, which we are going to extract from an external source system. So now we are going to cover about implementing and managing semantic models. We know maybe the data scalability part is going to be grow thoroughly, like whenever you are trying to build the data models or semantic model, if you are reaching to the particular level, we have to make sure that what kind of a flexibility or else accommodating the features on the semantic model level. We have to cross verify each and every layer. So starting itself, the data should be very smaller. So we don't rely on the smaller data set. It is going to grow later part with the volumes of the data, and once it is moved onto the deployments like a production environment. Make sure that most of the transformations you are going to perform by coordinating with the data engineering team, and try to build over limited number of transformations inside by preparation of the data with various workloads that has been get available to you, and try to maintain the consistency, like the scalability, where we are going to perform the less number of transformations will be visible to you in the processing part, and try to take it forward by using the languages or advanced functionalities to avoid these complex functionalities in the inside of each application as well. This is, we are very familiar. So whoever coming from the Power BI background, we are aware there are two types of modes: import method and direct query method, which will be a quicker for import method, say, I can say that. So stores the data in Power BI, and it is going to be a copy of it, replica, and you can perform all type of transformations, which we're going to do it inside the Power Query data. Just like that, we can perform the different various type of data refreshes as well. We know how many times of by using the gateway configuration, we can perform it accordingly. And we are aware this direct query as well. We can connect and see in the form of a live data refreshes, real-time data. But here the limitation is something like if you're using the direct query method, the transformations as well as, make sure that one more very important thing, make sure that if instead of defining the new columns in the Power BI or wherever you are trying to do the after the semantic model built, make sure that that new columns, calculated column, should be do it at the backend itself, instead of doing or preparing your calculated columns or larger data transformations inside of it. And coming to this directly, if you're observing, which will be get supported. So completely going to be a cloud-based environment. You can connect directly to the existing one data that is going to be visible to you in the form of a delta tables in one lake. and supports limited transformations. So as per the you, as I said, right, Dataflow Gen2 itself, most of the transformations will be get supported for the cleansing operations. And very important stuff is there is not require any gateway configurations if you're working with the direct lake. It is a quicker or freshness of the data will be visible to you when you're working with the direct lake. So no, like you had to manually do, or else manually you had to do some auto refreshes and so on. Not like that. Automatically you can see the fresh data on your report building and proceed further analysis, which is going to be very good for the performance optimizations as well. Suppose if you're combining two things like import method or some of the tables, dimension related tables, and some of the tables, if you're working with an direct lake or direct query mode, in such kind of a scenario, we are going to call it as a composite mechanism or as composite model, which is going to be mixed kind of an approaches, which is combination of import and direct query methods. So any thoughts from you, Asgar, here?
Yeah, the thing is just, important for the exam is just to understand what each of them does, because
Yes.
each of them has a place. There's no right or wrong here. It depends on what you're trying to do. Import has its limitations and its strength, and directory and direct lake have the same thing. And there's no one thing that you can always use. It just depends on what you're trying to do. So keep that in mind. That when you do the exam, that you need to read the question well to understand what actually is the correct one.
Yeah, please read the question properly, and they're going to definitely ask you some questionnaires related to the import, direct query, and direct lake mechanisms part, which you are going to apply for the DP-600 related. And make sure that composite model is a mixed mode, which is going to be an import direct lake method. So, which is having the faster, as well as you can perform multiple transformations by using this import mechanisms too. Moving on to the next slide. So optimization of the semantic model, if you're observing, these are the steps we can try to make sure that if you are implementing the transformations, and make sure that before moving on to the modeling part, semantic model development, the transformations where you're performing, prepare the data upstream as much as possible. That's what I said in the earlier slide also. Prepare as much of much transformations in the backend itself. Transformations takes a major role, and make sure the tables, right, which you are going to get connect or work on it. It's going to be the views, or instead of directly extracting the tables, try to create it as a views and materialized views where we can perform the data, various pre-aggregated data, and store it into your lake, direct lake or direct query mechanisms. As I mentioned, connect to the views instead of directly connecting to the tables, which will be a better idea for the performance optimizations part if you're connecting to the real-time, relational databases and so on. Make sure that if you're performing some data transformations, the transformation list should be something like removing the columns, unwanted columns, you can definitely get rid of it. Or maybe if it is unwanted data, you can try to do the filtration as well. And whatever the limited number of columns, we will not make use of all number of columns into the report or else visualization level. Make sure that if you want to get it optimized with semantic model, reduce the number of columns what it is going to use at the front end part. Those columns should be validate, and try to make sure that those columns should be visualized at the front end level. And one more thing, if you're working with the historical information and you want to perform, instead of doing the complete refreshes, try to maintain the incremental refresh, which will be supported on the cloud-based environment and the direct lake as well. So do the partitioning and avoid unnecessary actions or else unnecessary information inside of your semantic model. Make sure that you are going to implement by using the commands like a range, start range, and similar like what we will do for the incremental refresh while working on the semantic model building. And one more important thing, if you're observing, data type cross verification. So before navigating or else moving on to the building the semantic model, try to cross check how the relationship or else how the tables has been get connected. So what type of a data types that has been defined before loading onto this. And make sure that one very important thing, if you're working on the cloud direct lake approaches, right? Referential integrity, one option is there. So we have to cross check or else enable it so that we are going to load the matching based on the dimensional related information, not any other than that. Like if you are uncheck it, by default it is going to take it as a left outer join. If you are enable that referential integrity, it is going to consume the data from both of the tables in the form of an inner join. Maintain that consistency when you are trying to build. It is one of the best approach or performance part. It is one of the important thing which you have to keep in mind while you are designing the semantic model. So as we already aware, as I said, query folding part, which is very, very important. So whatever the transformations that you're performing, cross-verify, right? Trust check whether it is really working and defining to query back to the backend source and you are seeing the result for better performance or not. So the query engine, right, is going to read all your data transformation steps. And if you are trying to add any new column, it breaks the query folding. So make sure that most of the transformations like sorting, filter, it works. It's a kind of a SQL statement, condition wise, where class. But if you are adding some new columns, you have to get connect with the backend data engineering team and get it added any new column at the preparation itself. Keep your model with a simple and try to proceed further analysis as well. Yeah, these are the, if you want me to ask what are the optimizations you are going to take it in your activities, means these are the real-time activities which I'm going to proceed and take it over in my real-time stuff. So Asghar, your views on this, any?
Yeah, I just have a question for the audience, and this sort of interesting because there's a lot of talk about using hash keys for keys instead of using surrogate keys, like integer surrogate keys. So I've been wondering with the audience if they prefer to use integer surrogate keys for the dimensions and facts, or if they want to use hash keys. Because it has really good advantages, but I just did a project for a customer where we went from hash to integer, so we cost time in the loading, but we saved 35% on the model size because we had some really big fact and dimensions. So it's pros and cons about it. But if you are using hash or integer, please put it in the chat because I'm really interested to see what you're using.
Nice. Fine. Moving on to the next slide. So maintaining and analytics solution in Microsoft Fabric.
So now we're going to talk about maintenance and governance. So first we're going to talk about in that perspective is the data security, and data security is many-folded in Fabric. You will have multiple layers from a very high level down to a very, very low level. And if we talk about security in Fabric, we will first talk about workspace roles, which is like who has access to workspaces. Typically, this is going to be given to creators. Workspace should typically be only for creators because 3 of the 4 roles you can get in workspace, they are edit roles. So you will either be able to delete everything or not delete everything. So there are levels there, of course, but the workspace roles, they're for creators typically. Then you have item permissions, where if you don't want to give access to everything in the workspace, you can get access to only certain items. That's typically a read access for the actual content of the item. So lakehouse or a warehouse or a SQL endpoint or something like that. So you can give and also, for example, if you have a semantic model and you want to give someone a build permission to build a report on top of that, that's given on the the semantic model item, not on the workspace itself. And going down even further is the computer granular permission. That's like each one of these engines that might have a different way of doing security. So a warehouse will have a row-level and object-level security, which you can implement via T-SQL, and that's only going to work for the actual warehouse engine. And then the SQL endpoint will have similar things. Semantic models, so they also have their own row-level security. And then going even deeper down, we have OneLake, which is underneath everything. That's where you also have its own security. And that is like, ideally, you will strive to create the security at the lowest level. So at the OneLake level, that would be the utopia if you can only put the security on the OneLake. Because you can go in and put the security on the data itself, even row-level security and object-level security you can put on the data itself. And then all the engines that read that particular data, they will inherit that security, meaning that you don't have to put it on the warehouse and then on the lakehouse and then on the SQL endpoint and all those different things. There's a caveat, of course, there. You need to be aware that if you copy the data, then you are, then you're making a copy, then you're taking the data and then you've created a new security model. You need to do that. If you import it into a semantic model or if you copy the table from one to another, then you have, you're in a different situation. You need to make sure that you have you should set the security there as well. So if you go to the next one.
Yeah.
So on the on the semantic model level, so if you want to go on and create some security on the semantic model, which is typically going to be role of security, it is a good idea. It's a best practice to minimize repeated things. So if you don't want to create the same role over and over and over, you should probably try to use as few models as you can. That is not to say that you should use one model to cover them all, but at least as few as you can, and then try to use dynamic roles as much as you can. Dynamic roles is where you will have a data-driven security. So you will have a list of a table in your data with maybe emails of the people that are supposed to have access, and saying this person has access to these 3 departments. This person has access to this department. It's in the data itself, and it's related to the dimension that it's supposed to control. So instead of going on the dimension and putting a role says, EMEA is these people and APAC is these people, you have a table of data that is actually controlling that. You put that on the dimension tables, always on the dimension tables, not on the fact, because dimensions filter facts. Take advantage of the dimensional model, because a one dimension might filter multiple facts. So instead of putting it on many tables, we put it on one dimension that filters all the different facts. And then you put that dimension, that table with a relationship on the dimension, and then you have that way of controlling access. What is really good about doing this way is that you can make sure you can allow people that are not developers to actually control the access. So domain level experts, they can maintain that table of people and what they have access to, instead of making the Power BI developers or the semantic model developers do that, because they don't necessarily know who has to have access to that, but the domain experts, they will know that. Of course, you need to validate your model design and relationship, make sure that everything works, and there's a way to do that with testing, of course. One thing to know, if you're using dynamic rules, you should most likely use user principal name instead of username. So user principal name function will capture the email or the user principal name of the person that is actually looking at the report and pass that onto the model. That is the best way to do it. Username will catch the email of the person if you're in the service, but it will have the windows, so the domain / username if you're in the Power BI desktop. So stick to user principal name. The only use case I know of using username is better. That's in some embedding scenarios where you have basic authentication. But no, don't worry about that for the exam. User principal name, that's where you want to go. And you want to test your role. Yeah, you want to test your roles well. There is in the service, you can use view as the test as role, and in the desktop it's view as role. And then you can test, if I'm this person, how will it look like? By typing the email of the person in. So test it very well.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. And this is for many people that are coming from the Power BI background, this is a little bit of a new thing here. We are trying to do, so the analytical engineer, so the engineering part in that name is like a different mindset. Instead of thinking about this as a one-off solution, deploy from Power BI desktop, you are now thinking more in an engineering way. And the engineering way is doing things in a repeatable, testable way that is like more modularized. That's what we want to do. Part of that is doing version control. In version control, what we want to do there is, of course, you want to track and manage your code, typically via Git if you're in Fabric, of course, which put a Git on the workspace, and you can do your version control there. And this facilitates teamwork and more of a solution-oriented way of doing things. Another thing you want to do is having deployments. So instead of just going in Power BI Desktop and pushing publish, you want to do a more controlled deployments. Maybe you don't want to deploy everything from one workspace to another, but only partial of it. And typically in Power BI or in Fabric, you're going to be using Fabric deployment pipelines. But this can also be automated via code if you want to use Azure DevOps or GitHub or something like that. But for the purpose of the exam, this is going to be the deployment pipelines. And another thing about being more engineering, that is to use monitoring. There's a lot of built-in monitoring. For the purpose of the exam, you should understand when to use which monitoring. So you have monitoring hub for the operational monitoring. So what failed, what succeeded, all those different things. You have the capacity metrics app for the capacity monitoring. And then you have the admin workspace for the user adoption and governance monitoring. So understand which one is used. And finally, for the engineering way of thinking is to do automation as much as you can. Fabric has a rich set of APIs you can use for automation. If you want to do CI/CD, if you want to do automate everything, the APIs are your friends, and you try to use them to if you want to automate things from a third-party tool. The great thing about automation is that you will remove a lot of human error because you're doing things with a machine. Machine can fail, but you will at least remove some of the risk of it. Go on. So this was the last slide of the content. Now we have a couple of just housekeeping slides before we're done. We are almost at time. So if you want to, sorry, yeah. Yes, you want to prepare for the DP-600 exam, request your voucher, schedule exam. Don't wait to schedule it. Schedule it now early so you get a deadline so you can actually work towards something. Get hands-on. If you cannot get your hands on a real data, real work, then do the micro-learn modules. They have a bunch of hands-on as well. Take the practice exam because it will tell you where your gaps are, and it will help you focus your learning.
Yes. So I'll just try to add here, hands-on part, you will see each and every exercises on the module part, DP-600. Its best way is something like if you want to get it hands-on each and every module, please prepare on the exercises which has been provided in the Microsoft Learn portal and try to complete it so that you will get, instead of just identifying and seeing the theoretical part from various global sessions, right? So just start working on this so that you'll get to know what it is and how we are going to make use of the data flows or pipelines or external extractions and so on. So this is how we can start preparation. Be motivated. So start requesting for the voucher, and you can see the QR code on the right hand side as well. So that is my sincere suggestion. So there is also practice assessment part, so 50 questions they are providing, so get participated. So test yourself like how it is and what kind of a questionnaire is and so on, so that it is better to get it list and whether we are getting right marks and so on. It is not going to be all multiple choices. That going to be something like a case studies will be there, right? Case studies is going to be there, approximately 40 to 60 questionnaires. You have to get it attempt for the DP-600 examination. So this is what I just want to give a tip here. So moving on to the next slide.
Yeah, we are at time. So we can, I think we have, just this one out. So apply for the certification. You know the drill now. You have in the chat is probably posted multiple times. And if you just go to the last slide, join in the fun. And hopefully we'll see you all in the next 50 something days, and you participate a lot in this, and then you will learn a lot, and don't stop just after getting the certification. Just keep on continuing participating in the community, because there's so much value in it.
Exactly. Don't stop after DP-600. 700 is there, and even the DP-800. So continuous learning process so please get started. So one more slide.
Yeah, this is just the same one wrap up. So
yes.
I think thank you very much, everyone, and hopefully you had enjoyed it as much as we did, and we will see you in the next session, hopefully next week.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Asghar. Thanks, team. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all for joining, and thanks to our speakers. Here at the Reactor, we are always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. So if you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find the link to our survey on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you on the next one.